And they said, she makes the show look cheap. You got to get rid of the girl. They said, no, that's the joke. And they said, just give us that. So I won't say I was fired, but I was certainly let go. And because I was let go, I was unemployed and available to read for All in the Family.
At first glance, it may seem unthinkable that Sally Struthers, the bright-eyed blonde who captured hearts as Gloria on the iconic 1970s sitcom All in the Family, could harbor anything but fond memories of that remarkable run. After all, the show is hailed as groundbreaking, fearless, and culturally transformative. And yet, in a revealing new podcast appearance, Struthers didn't hold back. Her time on the show was far more complicated than the smiles on screen would suggest. She told hosts on the Let's Talk About That podcast that she wasn't a huge fan of creator and producer Norman Lear, and revealed some startling behind-the-scenes truths. The golden cage of All in the Family.
I watched all these families on TV, and they were all perfect. And my family wasn't perfect, so I didn't realize it, but I grew up feeling like we were lesser than. But then the bunkers came along, and they flushed toilets. They didn't have good manners at the table. They reached over one another for food. They slept in the same bed. Imagine that, a married couple sleeping in the same bed.
To the outside world, Struthers seemed to be living the Hollywood dream. All in the Family wasn't just a television hit, it was the show that defined 1970s American culture. It started family arguments, changed political discourse, and turned its cast into household names overnight. For Sally Struthers, the ascent was meteoric. The fame was instant, the awards followed, and audiences saw her as the moral heart of the show. Behind the scenes, however, Struthers says she felt boxed in, emotionally and professionally. She described the experience as exhilarating and suffocating at once. Contractually locked in, she had little control over her trajectory at a time when she was still figuring out who she wanted to be as an actress. She watched peers move into film roles and creative risks, while she came back to the same living room set week after week, realizing she had become Gloria even off camera, a symbol rather than a woman with agency. The more successful the show became, the more trapped she felt. The public loved her, casting directors wanted her, but only as the daughter of Archie Bunker. The irony is brutal. The very show that launched her career immediately built a ceiling over it. Her strained relationship with Norman Lear. Much of Struthers' discontent, she admits, stemmed from her uneasy dynamic with creator Norman Lear, the legendary architect behind the show's political bite. She says the relationship was never warm, and in fact bordered on dismissive. According to her, Lear rarely interacted with her on a personal level and tended to orbit the male actors and writers instead. She makes a point of saying she was not in the inner circle. One alleged comment from Lear stuck with her for decades, a remark about her having, quote, blue eyes and a fat face. It wasn't framed as an insult at the time, but it lodged deep enough that she still remembers the sting. That kind of casual reduction, beauty boiled down to two features, seemed to reflect a larger pattern. She was seen as an accessory to the show's message, not an artist in her own right. And when she finally tried to leave, it escalated fast. She reportedly spent $40,000 in legal fees attempting to break her contract. You don't invest that kind of money just because you want a vacation. You do it because every cell in your body wants out. The $40,000 escape, that didn't work. Struthers didn't merely think about leaving All in the Family, she actively fought to get out. She poured $40,000, an enormous amount at the time, into trying to reclaim her freedom and redefine her career. But the machine around her was too powerful. The network wouldn't release her. She lost, so she returned, contractually bound, but now fully aware she was working inside a system where she had no say in her own trajectory. And that changes a person. Returning to the set wasn't a triumphant comeback. It was surrender. If she had once shown up to work as a hopeful young actress, now she arrived as someone who knew she didn't belong there, but had no exit, living a double life behind the laughter. While America was laughing at Archie Bunker's outrageous rants and Gloria's fiery comebacks, Sally Struthers was quietly unraveling under the surface. She showed up to set with a smile, hit her marks, said the lines, charmed the camera, because that's what was required. But the work was no longer joyful, it was obligation. It was maintenance, not expression. Struthers has hinted that the spiritual exhaustion was worse than any physical fatigue. She wasn't burned out from long hours, she was burned out from being unheard, from feeling invisible inside a show she helped carry. She would go home drained rather than fulfilled, and unlike today's Hollywood, where stars are encouraged to speak openly about agency, mental health, and creative dissatisfaction, In the 1970s, you kept your mouth shut. You did the job. You were grateful. The moment she finally said it out loud. It took Sally Struthers more than 5 decades to finally speak the words plainly. She hated filming All in the Family. Not disliked aspects of it, not had mixed feelings, but hated the actual experience of doing it. For years, she had been careful, diplomatic, reverent even. The show was too culturally sacred. Norman Lear was too mythic, her own legacy too intertwined. But age has a way of stripping away the need for permission. When she finally said it, not in bitterness, but in total clarity, it wasn't delivered as a scandalous confession. It was delivered like truth finally being allowed to breathe. There was no spite, no attempt to rewrite history, just relief. She didn't say it to get revenge. She said it because she no longer needed to pretend the experience matched the myth. A culture that didn't allow fragility.
She said in front of everyone, "Oh, I wouldn't do that if I were you, dear. You don't need a cookie."
Oh my God.
goodness.
Totally fat shamed me in front of the rest of the people in the room. And I thought, gosh, that's not nice.
You have to remember the era. This wasn't modern Hollywood. There were no table reads about emotional safety, no agents encouraging mental wellness, no social language for burnout or toxic dynamics. In the 1970s TV industry, gratitude was expected. Silence was professionalism. If you were unhappy creatively, emotionally, psychologically, that was your problem. You kept your head down and survived. For a young woman in that system, especially one not part of the inner circle, speaking up would have been career suicide. Worse, it could have been seen as ungrateful. And no one in show business fears anything more than being called difficult. That label ends you faster than failure ever could. So she swallowed it. The isolation, the loss of agency, the strange reality of being globally adored while privately unsettled. Resentment without villainy. What's striking is that Struthers has never painted Norman Lear as a monster, just as a man who simply didn't see her. Her tone isn't slanderous, it's observational. She describes distance, not cruelty. And for some, that's worse. When someone is openly harsh, you can react at least. But when you're merely unacknowledged, you fade quietly while no one notices you're disappearing. She never accuses him of intentional harm or malice. What she exposes is the cost of being emotionally peripheral in a room where the stakes are astronomical. Lear was busy changing television. Struthers was busy trying not to vanish inside history as merely a prop for someone else's revolution. Watching it now, pride but not peace. Struthers has admitted that when she watches old clips today, she can finally appreciate the brilliance of what they accomplished. The writing, the timing, the cultural audacity. She can even laugh. She can feel the weight of what the show meant. But she does not feel peace watching it. She doesn't get transported back to joy, she gets transported back to survival. Would she do it again? The answer is complicated. You might expect her to say no, but she doesn't. Because fame was not the problem, success wasn't, the lack of oxygen was. Struthers has never said she wishes she hadn't done All in the Family. What she seems to wish is that the show had held space for her as a human, not just a character. If she could redo it, she wouldn't walk away, but she would demand to be seen. Now it's time to hear from you. What's the most surprising part of all this for you? Let us know in the comments section below.